Hi there. This Beatitude says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." Righteousness basically means doing the right thing, doing what is right. But does it mean that you hunger and thirst to do the right thing personally, or does it mean that you hunger and thirst that the right thing should be done all around? All around. And anyway, who decides what is the right thing? Do we look to some sort of authority to determine what the right thing is? Jesus argued from the authority of Scripture. He looked at the Tanakh and he interpreted it a certain way, but he was arguing against people who shared his high view of the authority of Scripture. So there's no guarantee when we go to scriptural rules or any other sort of ethical rules or principles. There's no guarantee that we are doing the right thing. The rules might be wrong. We might be applying the rules wrongly. We might be interpreting them wrongly. So it is difficult. And yet there it is, this astonishing claim. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. For them to be filled means that their craving for justice, for righteousness, will be satisfied. And how on earth is that going to happen? I mean, we all have so many different ideas about what is right and what is wrong. How can that ever come about? Well, it seems there would have to be a pretty dramatic change for that to come about. And ultimately, it also suggests that there is just one version of right and wrong. Now, we find it very hard, impossible to agree on exactly what is right and wrong. But sometimes we confuse this. We say that because we find it so impossible to agree on what right and wrong is, that there is no such thing ultimately as right and wrong. There are just different versions of it according to your context, where you come from, and so on. This is true for you, this is true for me, this is right for you, but this is right for me, and so on. I don't think we should be confused about this, and I think this Beatitude clearly expects that there is one version of righteousness. But how do we get to the point where that one version of righteousness is fulfilled on the earth? I mean, what would it take? And look at the language here. It says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice, for righteousness. Do you crave justice like that? Do you crave it like food and drink? Do you feel the lack of justice, the lack of righteousness, as though you were starving, as though your throat was parched with thirst? I mean, it's amazing to think that this craving that we have could be satisfied, ever. And we probably would all agree that it can't be satisfied in our lifetime. But will it ever be satisfied? Or is the universe always going to go on infinitely, endlessly, on this mixture of good and bad and lack of agreement and a lot of evil in the world? Or will righteousness be fulfilled at some point? I mean, what would it take for that to happen? Well, there would have to be perhaps an astonishing evolution of humanity in our human nature, in our spiritual understanding. Maybe it would really need a miracle. It would need an intervention by God. But maybe it would be a combination of the two. And so I go back again to this statement. Faith is the decision to live as though something were true. So what would be the effect if we lived as though this beatitude were true? Well, if we convince ourselves to have this real expectation that one day the craving for righteousness will be fulfilled, then it would save us from despair. It would keep us working at it with energy and with hope. And ultimately, that may be what this Beatitude and all the Beatitudes are about teaching us to live in hope. And if we have a real hope burning bright within us, that justice, however hard it is to attain, will be fulfilled. Righteousness will happen on the earth. That's the blessing. That's the blessing. So we are blessed. So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Amen to that. See you next time.